bet you didn't even know that he was one, did you?
Yeah.
I did. Can I get a little light on something? Actually, whoa, Claire also. Kids, you go upstairs. I know you don't want to listen to me. And enjoy it. Well, here we are in the midst of our series.
Just follow him.
Perseverance. Do you really, truly want to see your dreams come true? What's it going to take to turn the nightmare that has become into a dream? I already had the message sort of birthed in me this week when I came across that video by Denzel Washington. And he so eloquently was talking to a group of actors and writers. And I was like, wow, it's real, you know? It's real. I'm going to start today by reading you a children's story. Yes, I've done nursery rhymes before. I've done comedy. We've even done the redneck cookbook in this church before. But today, I'm going to read you a little story called Stone in the Road. Let's soak in. Think about what you're doing with the obstacles that are in your way of your dreams, okay? There's a story of a king who lived long ago in a country across the sea. A very wise king. He spared no effort to teach his people good habits. Often, he did things which seemed strange and useless, but in all that he did teach his people to be industrious and careful. Nothing good can come to a nation, he said, whose people complain and expect others to fix their problems for them. Good things come from life. Good things from life come to those who take matters into their own hands. One night, while everybody else slept, he placed a large stone in the road that led past the palace. And then he hid behind a hedge and waited to see what would happen. First, the farmer came with a wagon loaded with heavy grain, and he was taking it to the mill to be ground. "Well, who ever saw such carelessness?" he said crossly, as he turned his team around and drove past the stone. "Why don't these lazy people have this rock taken out of the road?" And so he went on complaining about the uselessness of others, but not touching the stone himself. Soon afterward, a young soldier came along, singing as he walked along the road. He was thinking about wonderful bravery and how he would show in the upcoming war. The soldier did not see the stone, but struck it with his foot against it, and he went sprawling into the dust. He rose to his feet, shook off the dust from his clothes, picked up his sword, and stormed angrily about, and complained about the lazy people who had no more sense than to leave such a huge rock in the road. He too walked away, not once thinking that he might move it himself. So the day passed, and everyone who came complained and whined because the stone lay in the middle of the road, but no one touched it. Just as night fell, a miller's daughter came, just a little bitty thing. She was a hard-working girl and was very tired, and she had a busy day. But she said to herself, "It's almost dark, and somebody may fall over this stone in the middle of the night, and perhaps they could get hurt badly. I'll move it out of the way." So she tugged at it. It was a heavy stone. It was hard to move. She pulled and pulled and pushed and lifted until at last she moved it from its place. To her surprise, she found a box underneath the stone. She lifted up the box. It was heavy, but it was filled with something. And upon written on the lid of the box was this: "This box belongs to the one who used the stone." She opened the lid. It was full of gold coins. The miller's daughter went home with a very happy heart. When the farmer and the soldier and others who had earlier in the day whined and complained about the stone in the road, they gathered on the spot of the road where the stone had been. They started digging and looking to see if there's any other gold coins. And then the king showed up. He said, "My friends, often we find obstacles and burdens on our way, and we may complain out loud while we walk around them if we choose. or we can lift them and find out what they need. Disappointment is usually the price of laziness. Then the wise king mounted his horse and politeness him good evening and rode away. The thing that I've noticed as I've prayed about how do I deal with the obstacles that are in my life, that are keeping me from accomplishing the dreams and purposes that I know God is working within me. You know what it is? We're so narcissistic. We're so self-centered. We whine, complain about the obstacles. Never thinking that God himself could have put that obstacle in the midst of the road for us to actually do, to take it upon ourselves, to sweat, to hurt ourselves, to get it out of the way that we might develop character. And you see, that's the prize of the gold coins. A deep character. Purpose. You should see, in the midst of these obstacles that you face, could very, very well be your dream fulfilled. Never thought of it that way, did you? And yet, we Christians, who have the most that we've gained, I can't use the word, but we sure whine a lot. We just have old-fashioned gripe sessions. And I know for many of you, you're weary, you're worn down. Past couple of years, maybe you've been in a battle. If you're a student, you know, the older you get, the more life comes at you. You're out of school, you're working your way out of financial debt from being in school. You know, it all seems, you know, you can't afford that nice new car, so you get that Bobo, that runner, you know, that beater that almost works most of the time because that's what you can afford. Yes. For some of you, it's almost like you crawl across hot coals to accomplish the things that you set out to do. Just like the stone in the road, when we come across the obstacle to our dreams, we're tempted to complain. We lose sight of the opportunities before us, and if we're not careful, if we don't guard our hearts, bitterness is going to set in. It's going to choke off those future opportunities. Well, I'm going to talk about some things as you're pursuing your dreams. Paul shared a very, very small verse in the midst of Romans chapter 12. Let's go to Romans chapter 12. If you go down to verse 9 of Romans 12, talks about the genuine marks of a Christian. I'm going to read it all because it should speak volumes about who we become as believers. But in the midst, there's a little phrase that we're going to spend our time on. It says this in verse 9. Let love be genuine. Abhor what is evil. Hold fast to what is good. Love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Don't be slothful in zeal, but fervent in spirit, and serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation. Be constant in prayer. Contribute to the needs of the saints and seek to show hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Don't be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Never be wise in your own sight. Repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable and in the sight of all. And if possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, vengeance is mine, and I will repay, says the Lord. To the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him something to drink, but by doing so, you'll be heaping burning coals on his head. But do not overcome evil. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. You back up to verse 12. You're going to hear Denzel's speech again. It says this: rejoice hope. Be patient in tribulation. Be constant in prayer. And that's what we're doing. Let's pray. Father, I pray for my friends this morning that you touch their hearts, as you move us to a deeper relationship with you. That, Lord, the whole purpose of what we've been talking about is to see the dream that you birthed within each and every one of us to come to pass. Lord, help us learn perseverance today. Help us to overcome the obstacles that have been placed before us. Pour your Spirit out now upon this day and lift up your word that will touch our hearts. Be joyful in hope. You and I live from faith to faith. In Romans 1:17 it says, "For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith." You and I know we can't do what we need to do. Have you been convinced of that yet? Paul said, when I want to do the right thing, I am bound to do the wrong thing. Have you found that out about yourself? You think about the right thing to say, and bang, out of your mouth comes stupid stuff. You know? Have you noticed that about life? That's God working within us. When we recognize the fact that we're growing from faith to faith, God is leading us. He's developing something in us. He's building something up. We're seeing God do what we can't do. It's supposed to breed confidence in us. We're supposed to have confidence, not in our own flesh, because we know that our flesh is going to let us down. It's not in the fact that we know that we're always going to do the right thing, because I'll guarantee you, half the time, I don't do the right thing when I try to say the right thing. I use the wrong words. I use the wrong analogy. The point of the matter of fact is that it's God working in us. And we know that when we see God's hand and we're growing in our faith because we see God working, it should bear confidence to us that creates hope. And that's the hope that we're supposed to rejoice in. The thing for us to have this hope, to be able to rejoice in this hope, to be able to get beyond this obstacle, is that we have to see that God is bigger than who we are. Too many times, we listen to too many Christian broadcasters. I'm one of them, okay? If I start talking like some of those guys on TV and radio, please turn me off. You can't pull yourselves up by the bootstraps. It's got to be God that is performing the doing of it. You have to come to the conclusion that one of the greatest truths in the Bible is God that is bigger than anything that can happen to you. And we forget that when we face our obstacles. We serve this huge God. I blew an opportunity. A big one. God had put something on my heart quite a while ago. And I didn't have the courage to take the step of faith. My confidence had been shattered. And I allowed that fear within me to keep me from opening my mouth. And the situation developed where the opportunity that I desired to do was given away. God used it. I finally got the courage and went and asked anyway. And God worked out something lesser than the dream that I had. But in essence, the dream came true. But how much greater would it have been if I had the courage to ask the first time? I would not have to climb over all these rocks. There was a big rock. The big rock was fear. I was fearful, and God taught me a huge lesson. You see, God is bigger than any obstacle that you face. If God is birthing something in your heart, if God is saying, I want you to be a missionary, if God's saying, I want you to start this Bible study, God is saying, I want you to go and be this missionary, or I want you to take on this project, or I want you to lead this ministry. Whatever it is that God is speaking to your heart about, don't allow fear, because you're serving a big God. There's a song by Pocket Full of Rocks called Bigger. I want to read you the first verse. It blows me away. It says this: I try to put you in my little box, but you keep busting the hinges and you keep picking the locks. I see the big picture. It's bigger. How small I really am. Naked I come into this world. Naked I'll go out again. What's a man to do when he comes face to face with the divine? When every part of me wants to run away and hide. But you keep getting bigger. And I do believe that with everything in eternity, I still could not see just how big, just you are, and just how far you reach for me. You're bigger than me. You're bigger than you are. You see, that's what you have to see if you want to see your hopes fulfilled. You have to see in the dream that God is birthing within you. Look at those obstacles. And the God that you serve, the God that told you that it's going to happen, the God that told you to go do whatever it is you do, is bigger than any obstacle that you could ever come across. Every challenge and crisis that comes your way provides the opportunity for you to ask God to release the creative ingenuity, wisdom, and strength that lie within you. The psalmist knew this. The psalmist said this: it is God who arms me with strength and keeps my way secure. In Psalm 18:32. When you're faced with trials, difficult situations, when dealing with unfulfilled dreams, we can allow ourselves to forget the hope that lies within us. 1 Peter sums it up this way. We'll be done with this point. 1 Peter 1:5. But in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give a reason for the hope that you have. Do it with gentleness and respect. Listen, you have a hope that lies within you. You need to rejoice in that hope. Second thing, patient in afflictions. Challenge. How far are you willing to go today? How far are you willing to go to serve God? Going back to the story of the stone in the road. The least likely person with the fewest skills moved the stone. Her motives were right. She had the right spirit, but she persisted until she overcame the obstacle. It's going to take you discipline to overcome the obstacle. You're going to have to sit back and say, I'm going to have to do the right things. If you're a student, let me tell you the number one thing they look for when you go and get your first job. You ready for it? You ready? That you finish your degree. The number one thing, and I've been a recruiter in the corporate world, the number one thing we look for, did they finish what they started to do? We look for that consistency. We want self-starters who not only start things, but see them through to the end. That's why I told my kids, I want you to try as many things as you want in life. But whatever you commit to do, whether it's a 5-day horsey camp, you're finishing horsey camp whether you like it or not. You're going every day, whether the course throws you off or not. Why? Because you cannot learn the habit of quitting. You see, many of you do not have your dreams today because you quit on yourself. You quit. God didn't quit on you. The angels round about you were there watching in amazement. Why don't you have your dream? Quit on God. You just quit. You didn't have the stick-to-itiveness. You didn't have the trials, the tribulations. You say, oh, this comes back to the stone in the road. What do we do as believers? Christians are some of the syrupy, wandering, sick, pain in the neck people I've ever met. We don't like our president. What do? Instead of learning to work with the system, instead of learning to work with those that we don't agree with, all we do is sit around and complain about them. What does that breed in our spirit? A negativity, an impossibility. That whenever it's going to get hard, we quit. I run an NGO. We feed a whole ton of people. It has never been harder to get what it takes to feed people in Delaware County. I'll tell you this, it is easier to raise money for AIDS babies in Africa than it is to raise money to reach teenagers in America. People don't care about teenagers. I've heard this from pastors. Well, there's a church in every corner. They have an opportunity. Bugger on them if they don't respond. That's the attitude Christians have. We're passionate about people we are never going to see overseas. But dear Lord, we'll never cross the street. There's this attitude, this is negativity in Christianity. It is so hard to reach people. And it causes you to sit back and say, I'm going to do what it takes to get the job done. I partner with a whole lot of people that I will never agree with spiritually. Why? Because in the one common area we do agree, people are hungry. I could sit back, throw rocks, complain, point out faults, sit back and say you're ungodly, whatever it is. For the simple matter of the fact, because I'm willing to say, can I have something to share, to feed somebody with you? Eventually, we do have a conversation about, we want something. And it's a beautiful thing. We actually have dialogue. But you got to approach the tribulation, the problems, and the obstacles in the right manner. You've got to have discipline. You have to have stick-to-itiveness. You have to be able to sit back and say, I'm not putting on the dream. Here's a passage I want you to turn to. It's Luke 18. There's biblical precedence for this. I want you to see that you cannot quit. You have to have discipline in your life. You have to have stick-to-itiveness. No matter what you want to do in life. And by the way, for those of you who are being led by God to go overseas, if you don't learn it here and now, when you're out in the bush, God help you. I'm serious. I've talked to career missionaries. It says this in Luke 18, we'll start in verse 1. And he told them a parable to the effect that they ought to always pray and not lose heart. In a certain city there was a judge who neither feared God nor respected man. None of you knows. And there was a widow in that city who kept coming to him and saying, give me justice against my adversary. For a while he refused, but afterward he said to himself, though I neither fear God nor respect man, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will give her justice, so that she will not beat me down by her continuing coming. Principle there. He who gets the what? The gold, the goodies, is the person that doesn't quit. You want to see results in your life? You must have discipline. You must say, I'm sticking to my guns. I know what God's called me to do. And come hell or high water, whatever the enemy throws at me, whatever man throws at me, I am sticking to believing what God has called me to do. And if you do that, in time, you will receive that prize. That's what it takes to be successful. Go back and talk about NGO work, nonprofit work. It's an amazing thing. We probably have $150,000, $160,000 worth of gifts in kind donated a year. It's a lot of stuff. Cash? We're operating at about 25% of what we actually need cash-wise. The cash part's the hard part. That's the opposite. That's the rock in the road that I'm dealing with, is bad economy and how do you raise the money that you need to pay for what you need to pay for. We get plenty of free stuff. But it's the fun of the free stuff, you know? I miss Jonas. I told you. Jonas, you know, I knew this in May when both Jonas and Aaron said we're both doing our fall terms overseas. So my two best guys, who I poured the most into, who I taught everything I needed to talk to, who I could just delegate stuff to, and they got a tremendous amount of stuff done, they're both overseas. So I have a tremendous amount of interns. I'm not interns, but volunteers, and I'm grateful for every single volunteer I have, because they're all wonderful and all doing a great job. But it's like you're starting over, training people from scratch who, I've got a whole bunch of people that are students now coming from Widener, and I'm really blessed by the effort that they put in, but they don't know anything. I've got to explain everything, take the time to. There's that learning curve. So I miss the guys. I really do. I'm grateful they're coming back in January. But folks, getting back to this, you've got to have discipline. You have to have structure. You have to be able to stick to your plans. Third thing, and I'll leave you with this one. It says faithful in prayer. I love what Denzel said about shoving your shoes further under the bed to force you down upon your knees. You got to do that. You know, I'm not saying that you don't pray. We pray. I pray. We prayer walk. You know what I've discovered? It's the inconsistency that's killing us. It's the inconsistency of our prayers. Yeah, I have a verse for that. In Luke 10, in Luke 11, 10 and 11, I'll read you this. It says, I tell you, you ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds. And to the one who knocks, it will be open. There's some interesting play on words in the Aramaic here. There's a weird sort of tense to the words that talk about this. I knock and I keep on knocking. I ask and I keep on asking. There's that play on words in the original language. It's lost in the English translation. And the simple matter of the fact is we ask once and we think God's going to give it to us. I have been burdened to do a broadcast after-school program for 14 years. 14 years I've been working on it. I've done radio, by the way, over that time. For 8 of the years, I have actually done a radio show, actually 2 of them, and I've done mentoring through them. But I've been burdened that we can do more. We can actually start an internet station as a part of an after-school program. Well, now I have a university who's wanting to collaborate with me. It's cool working with other people's money. You know, God opened the door. But did I mention, it's taken 14 years. 14. We started in 1997 publishing a magazine. Everything that you see here began because my wife and I were volunteer youth leaders in a little Baptist church in Delaware, and God, we asked our kids in our room one day and said, what do you want to do? How do you want to reach your friends? And every single kid in the room said, we want to do a magazine. Well, gosh, my wife was a writer, an editor, and a graphic artist, and I worked in publishing. Duh! So we launched one. We did a magazine by kids, for kids. We were in 38 states, Canada, Guam, Japan. We were doing amazing stuff until we ran out of money. We ran out of money because the publishing industry changed. It exploded in cost for overruns, and it went from costing about $400 a month to print, because paper costs just went through the roof in the early 2000s. So we had to stop publishing it. And we started an after-school program, a drop-in youth center. We were doing a lot with volunteers. 40 kids with 3 volunteers was a pretty scary thing. We do a lot of cool stuff, but God never left me alone. He said, and I started to see digitally we could maybe do this thing. And here's what God's taught me. And I want you to hear this because I know many of you are struggling with your dreams. You don't just pray once and God's going to do it. You've got to pray over it day and night. You've got to get pregnant with this thing and give birth. I'm serious about your dreams. A piece of you is going to be coming out of you. You know? Part of you is become invested in this dream. Whether you want to be an overseas missionary or a school teacher or to work with people in the inner city, listen, it's going to take something of you. And that consistency in prayer on a daily basis. Listen, we have seen as a church great victories. We might be small, but I'm telling you, we have seen huge things happen in this church's life in the past 8 years. How? We prayer walks in places. Everywhere we prayer walk, we saw open doors. But here's the thing that blew me away. I'm working for, and when I preach these messages, I'm not just not preaching to you guys, I'm preaching to me too, because I'm learning something from God as I'm studying this stuff. And this is what God said. What happened? You don't prayer walk anymore. If you prayer walk and you see these open doors, why are you taking my providence for granted? Just because I opened the door through prayer walking, what does that tell you? That means you probably, if you want to see it come to pass, you need to keep prayer walking those places. And we haven't been. All the obstacles that we've had recently are in areas where we prayer walk real heavy and we stop prayer walking. I'm like, whoa, hello. Goes back to what Denzel said. Blew me away when I saw that video. I said, the dude just preached my message on something. It's the consistency. Goal, you just see a dream, not become a nightmare. You better have goals. And your goals will cause you to have discipline. And if you don't have discipline, where I'm talking about, I'm going to have structure in my life and I'm not going to back down and I'm not going to quit, and it's going to cause me to be consistent. You want to change your kids you're raising? You better be consistent. The number one thing that causes problems in parenting is your inconsistency with your kids. The number one problem in your goals and dreams that you have in your business life and your school life is that you are inconsistent. You want to succeed, you got to be consistent. You want to succeed, you better be disciplined. You want to succeed, you better have goals. And if you don't have those three things, you will not have your dream come to pass. It stays a dream. I love you guys. I do. Some of you are some of the closest friends I've ever had. And I hear what you talk about. I hear what you desire. I truly do. But here's the thing. Too many people walk around the rock in the road and gripe and complain about the rock. You're wearing a little hole, a little trench around the rock. Eventually it'll fall to the ground, all that disappear. But you're walking around the rock. This is what it's going to take for you to see your dreams happen. You talk to anybody who's successful, this is what they had to do to see your dreams. You see, it's not all on God. God births it in you, and then He requires you to live in faith. He requires you to grow up. He requires you to take the steps necessary for Him to be able to do what He does. Because some things God is not going to do for you. See that in Scripture. It requires you to respond to truth. It requires you to be consistent. So ended the lesson. So ended the series. Next week we start off with missions. We're going to talk about how do we ready ourselves for what God wants. It's going to be cool. We're going to have guests here. Please don't go hiding somewhere because we have guests coming. Please come out. We have some people that are going to be speaking to us from the midst of our room as well as from the outside that we support. And we're going to be here to encourage you to see what God's doing and how we should respond. If you have questions about how to have goals, hello, I'm here. Come talk to me. If you're having problems in any of these areas that I've talked about, we'll coach you. I'm not sitting here to yell at you. I'm here to say, here's the truth. Here's the steps to success. Here's what it's going to take to make it happen. And I'm telling you, you want a coach, you want someone to be involved with you, someone to advise you, someone that you can just yell at for a minute or two. We're here. We love you. We care about you. If you guys want to come up and close us in worship. God's going to do stuff. I'll be up in a minute and let you guys do what you want to do.
You're the one that guides my heart. Lord, I come, I confess, bowing here, I find my rest. Without you, I fall apart. You're the one that guides my heart. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Sin runs deep, your grace is warm. Where grace is found is where you are. And where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. So teach my soul to rise to you. When temptation comes my way, when I cannot stand, I'll follow you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. When I cannot stand, I'll follow you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. You are good when there's nothing good in me. You are love on display for all to see. You are light when the darkness closes in. You are hope, you have covered all my sin. You are peace when my fear is crippling. You are true,
As you see, the candy behind us is piling up. We have an outreach at the end of the month where we will touch virtually every child in the neighborhood's life. Bring candy. We'll have the tubs out soon. We'll have the bags. We're going to have a stuffing party coming up a little later this month. And the night for Light the Night is Halloween night. Scouts are doing a haunted house upstairs. We will have our construction lights in the parking lot. We invite everyone to come in costume Halloween night, and we're going to greet the neighborhood as usual. It's a cool event. Also happening October 19th is the third Sunday of the month. We are having a potluck that day. We invite you to bring some items. I'll have a sign-up sheet next week that you can put down what you're going to bring. There has some great fellowship over that. This series coming up, it's really going to be cool from the standpoint of the body is going to get a chance to speak. Not just me, it's just not there, it's us. There's going to be some cool themes, some really inspiring stuff, because we're going to have testimonies from some of our own people of what God's been doing in their life. And that is really, really encouraging. To hear that the person beside you is doing X, Y, and Z. You need to hear that because it's going to cause you to see, you know what? Look what God's doing in my life. We're in this together. I'm glad you chose to join us this morning, and I hope the message was helpful. And again, I really mean this. If you need a coach, if you need help with whatever you're going through, we're here for you. Won't you stand and assume the position? Blessing. Father, I pray for my friends this day that you would overwhelm them with your love and presence. Father, that you would make abundantly clear to each and every one of us just how much you love us. Lord, stretch us this week. Cause us to look if we have truly begun to ready ourselves for the tasks that you have designed us to be. Bless our folks, Father. Overwhelm them with your love. Harness them with your blessings until we come together in the